The stone axe was probably the first weapon devised by members of the genus Homo. Its appearance and development has been closely tied in with the evolution of mankind and has perhaps had a greater effect on human history than any other weapon in the videos that I'll be producing. Yet the object typically encountered in a museum labeled as a stone axe may well be nothing of the kind, and uncertainty surrounds the nature and purpose of many of these examples of this class of object. As befits perhaps the oldest technology on Earth, the stone axe is not a single unchanging tool. It evolved and diversified through many different forms and functions. The earliest examples are scarcely recognizable to the untrained eye, as they appear to just be simple broken rocks, but in fact, these are some of the first stone tools created by our earliest human ancestors, Homo habilis, and also used by their successors such as Homo erectus. Called Oldowan tools, after the Olduvai Gorge site in northern Tanzania where they were first discovered. These early axes are known as well, simply just as choppers, and are the simplest to construct. Any fresh break of flint, rock, or any similar stone will tend to leave a sharp edge along the fracture line, and Homo habilis may have deliberately created choppers by striking rocks together or simply used naturally broken rocks. The resulting choppers can be used to cut, scrape, or presumably bash other hominins about the head, neck, and shoulders, making them the first stone weapons as well as tools. Oldowan tools were succeeded by what are known as Acheulean or Acheulean tools after the Saint Archul site in northern France, associated with later hominins such as Homo erectus, Homo neanderthalis, and Homo sapiens. Acheulean tools show evidence of highly developed stonecraft. The Acheulean tool industry reached great heights of sophistication and skill. One remarkable feature of some periods and areas of biface production is that all examples adhere to the same proportions between length and width, and that ratio is what the ancient Greeks came to call the golden ratio or the golden section. This is the ratio that is produced by cutting a line that the shorter section is in the same proportion to the longer section as the longer section is to the whole. This works out, for the width times height is roughly 0.61. Given that the prehistoric flint knappers had no written instructions to follow, the findings suggest that they must have been capable of conceptualizing proportionality to some degree. Acheulean bifaces persisted for a remarkably long time, still being made and used by anatomically modern humans around 50,000 years ago. But in the period known as the Upper Paleolithic Transition, about 40,000 years ago, human cultural evolution appears to have accelerated and the stone tools changed with it. Bifaces evolved into more increasingly specialized forms, such as long blades for spears or barbs for harpoons. Hafting of stone tools probably became more common and widespread, but it seems that hafted axes only arrived relatively late, around 30,000 years ago, give or take, with hafted true axes not becoming common in northern Europe, for instance, until about 10,000 years ago. During the Upper Paleolithic, anatomically modern humans began to place a greater value on their axes or bifaces. Whereas most Neanderthal tools are made from local flint, Upper Paleolithic Homo sapiens would travel 100 miles or more to find decent sources of flint for their tools. By Neolithic times, axe heads evolved into objects of great beauty known as celts, some examples of which are crafted from semi-precious stones and have been polished with sand. These were probably not intended for use, instead possessing ritual, economic, or perhaps purely aesthetic significance. Hafting makes use of the force-multiplying mechanical principle of leverage. An axe head swung on the end of a haft moves faster and delivers more force on impact, as well as increasing the distance between the axe wielder and the target itself. This made the axe more potent for hunting and for combat, and far more effective for chopping. In fact, it may have been the need to chop wood to clear off areas of forest in the Paleolithic area and the early Neolithic area that led to wider adoption of hafted axes themselves. Axe hafts would probably have been made out of wood, bone, or antler, with the axe heads themselves fixed on with plant or animal fibers and early glue such as birch tar. Stone axe heads with bored holes for hafts appeared relatively late. In northern Europe, for example, they came around the same time as the first metal axe blades. These bored stone axes would have been called battle axes, but the distinction between battle and tool axe depends on the length of the haft itself, and these have not survived from Paleolithic times. A battle axe generally has a haft around half the length of an adult arm, with the tool axe being shorter or longer for a more specialized task. Battle axe haft length maximizes leverage and the fighting distance without sacrificing handling of the axe itself. To put a cap on everything, arguably the simplest weapon in human history, the stone axe can also claim to have been the most important. With transformative consequences for human evolution, the adoption of the stone tool radically increased early man's ability to hunt and process bigger animal carcasses, providing skins, sinews, and bone parts for use in boosting the meat content of our diets. With more protein and calories available for less effort, this dietary change led to anatomical and physiological changes such as smaller jawbones and smaller intestines, which in turn made possible for the evolution of bigger brains and social intelligence. But not simply bound to our own anatomical structure, stone axes also increased our control over the environment, whether through clearing forest or shaping wood itself. For example, the stone adze, which is a relative of the axe, could be used to shape a tree trunk into a long canoe, making marine travel possible. Stone axes also increased human control over the environment, whether through clearing forest or shaping wood itself. For example, the stone adze, which is a longer, more specialized relative of the axe, could be used to shape a tree trunk into a long canoe, making marine travel possible. The impact of the axe as a weapon itself is less clear, though. Estimates by archaeologists vary greatly, but it is now generally accepted that the Neolithic and Bronze Ages were somewhat violent time periods to be in, with widespread warfare, murder, rape, pillaging, anything you can imagine. Axes would have played their part as a weapon of war and a spoil of war itself.